Okay, we're embarking today on a new sefer written by Rabbi Akiva Tatz. Rabbi Akiva Tatz is one of the foremost thinkers, really, of our generation. He was a student by some of the greatest minds of this generation, amongst them Rabbi Moshe Shapiro, who was a gigantic philosophical guy and a genius with a tremendously deep neshama, and Rabbi Katz was able to be his student for 35 years and gleaned an enormous amount from him. Rabbi Tatz himself was a successful doctor in South Africa, and probably about 40 years ago he began looking into his Jewish roots, and he became a real, sincere, devoted, dedicated Baal Tshuva. For many years he was teaching in Yeshiva Or Sameach in Jerusalem. I had the pleasure many years ago to learn from him and some of his classes, and he eventually went on from there to become a leader of Judaism, Torah Judaism in England, where he is to this day. And one of his famous classical topics that he's spoken about for decades is the concept of Bechira, which is free will. And as we're going to see in his writings over here, this is really the cornerstone of our existence. And I thought that it would be beneficial for us as you're never too young or you're never too old to understand the koiches, the tremendous abilities and potential that you have inside of you, the decision-making process, and what you could accomplish when you are faced with a challenging decision to make, and the rewards that you could receive for making the right decision, not only for yourself, not only in this world, but for generations that will come after you, and of course, what you'll have waiting in the world to come. And the consequences, unfortunately, that could befall a person when there's a lapse of free will choice, and they make the wrong decision in their lives, what it could end up doing. So he writes over here in a small hakdam, a small introduction, the following. And he says like this: Bechira chavshis aimedes b'shorish hakima anoshi. This concept of free choice, we'll see the different ways that we'll explain it based upon different Rishonim, earlier commentators, Gemara, Achronim, later commentators, and the Meforshim, those that expound upon it, that Bechira chavshis, this idea of free will, really stands at the root of the existence of mankind. He magdira es yichidusay shel adam. It really defines the uniqueness of a human being. Aimedes b'yisaid kol gadlus enoshis, and it is what stands by the foundation of all of the greatness that we are going to discover within ourselves. Umahav ikar b'Torah, and it is a main concept that is the driving force behind the Torah itself, as we will see as we go along. Bechira chavshis hainu noisek kashe b'yoser. It must be understood that the concept of Bechira chavshis, of free will, is a very difficult concept and a very difficult discipline to be able to learn and understand. Reishis, first of all, Mishum shelimros bihiros havaya noishi shel chayfish livchor. First of all, we're saying that the human experience is based upon the concept of free will. Hagdarosa pilophysis chamakechach, says Rav Tatz, that it's a very philosophical study, and much of the philosophical world has grinded their brains over the years to try to understand this. But there's an approach that the Torah takes, that all of our great sages throughout the years take, which is going to open up the world of free will for us to understand this power that we possess inside. Shady, second of all, we live in a world that in a great way has tried to diminish the real greatness of the human spirit. More or less tries to diminish us into more of a physical creature in this world. And doesn't acknowledge the great strength that we have inside of us, called Bechira, called free will. So if you look at the world, says Rabbi Tatz, in general, we have been diminished. The power of that really resides inside of us. This that we are in tune with ourselves and we know what we could accomplish. Unfortunately, the world has diminished the sensitivity that we have to a lot of that. And therefore, it's far and few those that really understand the central idea that we have at our hands of what it means to be able to be someone that can be Bechira, to make a decision, and Bechira b'toiv, choose good. So the purpose of this book, says Rabbi Tatz, is that we should get a clear picture. There should be a recipe, but it should be clear to us the order of in which the way that a person is going to arrive at coming to the world of free will, and how we're going to be able to access that, the ideas and the concepts, and then of course most importantly be able to really access that koyach, that power, that potential that's inside of us, in order that we should be living up to the expectations of why it is that God created us to become these great Bali Bechira, these great masters of free will. So there's a longer introduction, but a lot of it doesn't pertain to what we're studying over here, meaning there's a lot of gratitude and thanks that he gives to the people that helped him to write this sefer. So I want to jump now into the first chapter over here. And the first chapter is called Bechira Ubria, free will and Bria and the creation. Hagisha HaMehafechanis, it is, as he calls it, it's like a revolutionary agenda over here. Let's see. Bechira Chavshis Magdir Es HaAdam. The free will is what defines a human and the human experience. Ha'adam hu shikuv shel Hashem. A person is a reflection of God. The very beautiful idea. We are a reflection of the one above. Kefishu yizbarach po b'chayfshiyus, just like HaKadosh Baruch Hu functions in his reality, in a world of chayfshiyus, of having the right to make any decision that he wants to, kach anu yochaylim lifol kiritzonenu b'chayfshiyus, we too are able, since that we are a reflection of God himself, to do what we want to in our abilities to choose one over the other, to make free will decisions. Yitzur macherim einem kain. Other parts or aspects of the creation are not like that though. Ein molecule. There's no molecule that wakes up in the morning and says, you know what, I would like to expand today. I would like to bang into some other molecules and suddenly multiply. Doesn't do that. Chaya or keichav. There's no animal that's in the world. The animals, the dogs, the fish, the cats, the German shepherds, the elephants in the zoo, they're not going through quandaries in their head about what is right and what is wrong, what is appropriate, what is inappropriate, what should I do, what should I not do. The elephant doesn't walk around and say, who am I? What am I doing here? Only a human being is going to be privileged to such questions. Or a kaichav, a star, the stars in the sky, the planets, Jupiter, the moon, all these things. They don't have internal conflicts that are going on inside of them trying to figure out what's the right thing and what's the wrong thing to do. They don't change the essence of who they are. There's no animal in the world, there's no physical creation in the world which through a decision that it makes will go beyond the natural bounds of what is considered to be the instinctual, physiological, scientific, biological world of that particular thing. It is what it is. Bees go to the hive and they make honey. Dogs are chase after the stick. And the fish that are in the sea, they will swim and they will breathe through their gills and they will fight against their enemies. And if there's little small plankton, they'll sit on the mouth of the what do you call it, of the whale, and they'll eat away the things over there. That's what they do. And the stars and this moon and everything rotates in the sky the way that it does. That's what it does. It doesn't change. Only man can change. Only man can have something that sits in front of him, a fork in the road, and he has to decide for himself which is the right way to go. And that fork in the road are decisions that a person has to make. Says Rabbi Tatz, Kulam Pailim B'diuk Lefitivam, everything in the physical world, it is payal, it does what it's supposed to do according to the exactness of how it was created. Raka Adam, only mankind, is free to choose to do whatever he wants. That's the unique quality of mankind. And therefore, we have a whole book over here. You can see how thick it is. There's a whole book that is going to inform us and is going to teach and is going to expose to us just what it is that we have going on inside of us. HaMishnah Omeres, and we'll end with these words. There's a Mishnah in Pirkei Avos in the Ethics of Our Fathers that says the following: HaKol Tzafui, everything is known to Hashem. Vareshus Nesuna, nevertheless, permission is granted to each and every individual to do with their life what they want. And of course, that Mishnah is going to bring us into the famous question, which we're going to have to deal with at some point as we're going through. How is it possible that Hashem, who is omniscient and omnipotent and knows everything, and there's nothing that happens in this world unless HaKadosh Baruch Hu wills that it should take place? How can that be true? And at the same time we say, I have free will to do with my life whatever I want. If Hashem knows everything and guides everything and does everything, then it would seem to be a contradiction. I don't really have free will to do what I want because Hashem is in control. That's a great question. We do not have enough information yet to answer that question. We will deal with that heavily as we go through this book together. But the Mishnah says, HaKol Tzafui, everything is revealed before Hashem, and yet Arishus Nesuna, permission is given over to each and every one of us to do what we want. Now, Mishnah Zu, Maifia Miyad Liacha Maimar Atana B'Mishnah Akotemes. The words of this Mishnah, this statement of Bechira, of free will, comes on the heels of another Mishnah, another statement from our sages. And that previous statement is, Chaviv Adam Shenivra B'Tselem, man is beloved because he's created B'Tselem Elokim, he's created in the image of God. What's the connection of one Mishnah to the next? Man is beloved because he's created in the image of God. And you should know that Hashem knows everything, but yet we have Bechira, we have free will. Klaima, what does that mean to say? Bechira Chavshis, free will, He Taitzah Shel Adam HaNivra B'Tselem Elokim. It is the result of mankind being created B'Tselem Elokim, in the image of God. Meaning the fact that we are godly, the fact that we're created in Hashem's image, that's the reason why we have a Bechira, we have free will, because Yitzur Hamashakev Elokus, a creation that is the reflection of godliness, Chayiv Lios Yitzur Becher Chavshi, we are obligated, it has to be, that we are imbued with this concept and this trait called Bechira, called free will, because that is who HaKadosh Baruch Hu is. Hashem is the Becher B'Kol, He's the one that chooses everything. He's entitled to do whatever it is that He wants, whenever He wants, make any decision that He wants. We that are created B'Tselem Elokim, in His image, so therefore we are then invested and imbued with that great power as well to make decisions and to choose for ourselves what is chavshi, what we want to in our lives. Okay, that's the beginning. We have a lot more to cover over here. And I think that Be'ez Hashem, as we go along, it will become exciting to see more deeper ideas of what's going on in this world and in our lives. And this way we'll have much more of an awareness of the decisions that are going on so often in our day-to-day, and of course the major decisions in our life. Okay, have a wonderful day, everybody. Look forward to seeing you, God willing, in person next week. I'll send out a message in the morning just to confirm.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're welcome.